Hey there, welcome to dotnetFlix. Today we are thrilled to have Jarne Van Aerde back. Jarne, great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Edwin and Sander, for having me again.
So you recently attended Microsoft Build Conference, right? This past May. There was some really exciting news about the terminal. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, definitely. So today I'm going to talk about Windows Terminal. I'm going to talk about stuff that already existed in the Windows Terminal, but where I'm confident that maybe not everybody knows it was there. And I'm also going to talk about some new stuff that was announced recently for Windows Terminal. And we're also going to talk about a little bit of PowerShell customization as well.
Cool.
So maybe first let's tell a little bit about what the Windows Terminal actually is. So the Windows Terminal in itself is no command shell. It's actually a host application that can host multiple command shells. So in this case, on my screen, I have Windows PowerShell open, but I can also open other shells as well. I can open Command Prompt, I can open Azure Cloud Shells, and I also have the possibility to add other shells as well. So that is kind of like the basics of Windows Terminal. And when I go to settings here, you will have the possibility to customize a whole lot of things with Windows Terminal. Well, this is the graphical user interface, but I'm guessing some people with programming knowledge are also watching dotnetFlix. So we're not going to really configure a whole lot with the graphical user interface today. We're going to use the JSON file. And the JSON file is actually, it's actually pretty nice. It's one giant JSON file that's used for the whole configuration of Windows Terminal. So let's actually quickly go through that JSON file together here. So at first, we have a JSON schema. Well, this is really useful because it will allow us to have autocomplete inside of this settings file. So that is really nice. We also have our actions here. Now, this is where I can specify custom commands, for example, with custom key bindings. I will also do that in a second. When we move down a bit, we will find our profiles right here. So these are our registered command shells for Windows Terminal. So in this case, I have Windows PowerShell, Command Prompt, and also Azure Cloud Shell. My defaults, they are still empty at the moment, but those are the configuration settings that will apply for every profile. And we will be filling that up today during some demos. I also have my default profile selected here, being Windows PowerShell in this case. Moving down a little bit more, we also have schemes and themes. Both are used for customization. Schemes is used for color schemes, so changing the color background of your terminal, but also the text of your terminal. And then we have themes here in the end. That's really used for other customization stuff, like, for example, setting the opacity of your terminal or setting your text in a bold format, that kind of stuff.
So Jarne, these different kind of shells that you can include, right? Well, what are the prerequisites? Can I just create a console application myself that accepts some input and then include that in the Windows Terminal?
Yeah, I'm guessing you can do that because as we will see in just a moment, the only thing you actually need to specify is where the executable of your command line is being placed. So if you have an executable, you can just link to that and it will just integrate with Windows Terminal automatically.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. But let's actually first add some custom commands right here. So we already have some that come pre-shipped. We have copy and paste, etc. One command that I really like is the global summon command. So I can just write out commands like this. I have my autocompletion from my JSON schema, really nice. I have this global summon command, and I can specify a custom key binding here. So let's use Ctrl-Shift-1, for example. Now, what's really nice is I just pressed save, and I actually don't need to close my Windows Terminal application because I have hot reloading. So this setting is automatically applied, and when I now press Ctrl-Shift-1, my terminal will come back into view. So that's really awesome. Another setting that I really like is a way to send input to my prompt. So this is a very generic command, but also really powerful. So you can just add a new command here. And instead of typing an inline command, this time I'm going to pass an object which will allow me to give more configuration to my command. So I still want to specify the name of my command. This time I do that under action. So that's going to be send input. And now I can just specify a random input. So in this case, clear return, for example. I can assign keys to that. So let's say Alt-K, press save. Let's maybe type some gibberish first, because then I can actually show it off. If I press Alt-K, you can see it appends clear to the command and also returns and executes the command. Now let's do it the proper way. And you can see it just works. So that's really awesome. You can imagine, for example, what I personally use a lot is the change directory for going up, period. I have that specified in a send input command. And well, the command itself is really short until you start using key bindings for it. And then you can imagine that you will really navigate up quickly. So that is really, really nice. Now, this is all stuff that has been in the terminal for quite some time, but there is also some stuff that was recently announced. So, for example, one of those things is shell integration. Now, shell integration is a way for command shells to report back specific parts of information to the Windows terminal. For example, where a command started, where a command ended, where my output started, where my output ended. Now, that may seem a little bit silly, but it actually enables a whole lot of new features for Windows Terminal. But let's actually first enable shell integration. The way to do that is here in my defaults. I can enable auto mark prompts, and that way I have shell integration enabled. It's going to mark my prompts with that. And one easy feature to show off shell integration is show marks on scroll bar. I can put that to true. And let's go back to the Windows terminal here. And let's open a new tab here. Let's execute a few commands. So for example, the list command, who am I? I'm still Jarne, that's great. We're gonna navigate to the desktop view, and let's also type netstat maybe. Well, let's not let netstat finish, may take some time. But it may actually not pop into view for you guys that well. So let's actually zoom in a little bit. But now in my scroll bar, I have those markings, and those markings are the places where I executed my commands. So these are the things that were just not possible before with without shell integration. Now, this is maybe a little gimmick, but one of the other features I found really useful is something that comes with the right-click context menu. It's a completely other experimental feature. So let's turn it on. And it allows you to have a context menu instead of right-clicking, which is normally used for pasting stuff inside of your Windows terminal. So now I have a context menu when I right-click. And one of the options that I have when I only have shell integration enabled is select output. Now this, as you can imagine, will select my output automatically. And it can do that because it has that information of where my output started and where my output ended. Now, there's a whole lot of other stuff that you can do with shell integration. You can have custom commands that are coupled to shell integration to navigate between commands, for example. But that is about the basic gist of it. Now, besides shell integration, there is another useful feature that was announced as well. So maybe to announce that feature, I first want to talk about the pain that comes with not having the feature. I think that's a good way of introducing it. So let's say this command, for example, netstat-ab. For the people that know this command, normally requires elevated permissions. And a way we would previously solve that is by opening a new Windows PowerShell tab and running it as administrator. But now we will also get sudo. Now, sudo is from Linux, and for the people that don't know it, it will allow you to execute commands in line. So in this case, I can press enter, And you may not see that, but I get a confirmation window as of now saying that I need to confirm the process of sudo. I'm going to press yes, and it's going to execute my command in line. Now that is pretty awesome. Now I have to say, sudo is still very preview at the moment of recording. So to actually get your hands on sudo, you actually need to join the Windows Insider program. Now that sounds really fancy, but the only thing you actually need to do is press this button, join the Windows Insider program. You need to give some information, and then you will be able to download a preview build of Windows 11. Now that preview build is pretty important because there will be a new setting under the Developers tab. Let's actually go there. All the way at the bottom, you will have a new setting, Enable sudo. I think by default this is turned off, so you will really need to go and look for it. And you will also have some other configuration options here as well. By default, it will be configured to execute in a new window. Now, there is a good reason why the Windows team has chose this as their default, because at first it may be a bit silly because it would still open a new window and execute the command over there. Right now, there are still some security concerns with using the sudo command in line, and that is why they put it last. But let's hope that they will eventually solve it, because it's a way nicer experience to have your sudo command being executed in line. Now that's quickly about all functionality that you have with Windows Terminal, but you also have a whole lot of customization options. Let's maybe start with bringing some color to my Windows Terminal, because right now it's pretty boring. It's only black and white. There is a really nice website that you can use to download specific color themes. It's called Windows Terminal Themes. Because I'm not that creative myself, I usually go here. And it has a whole array of different color schemes you can choose from. Right now, the one that I have selected is Homebrew. It's giving me retro vibes, so that's the one that I'm going for. And you also have some really nice overviews here on how it would look in different circumstances. So let's actually download that theme. It will copy to your clipboard. And when we go back to our settings.json, we can go to our schemes, and we can just paste it. It's that easy. And it's VS Code, so you will still have the possibility to edit some specific colors if you would like to. Now, the final thing that I still need to do is use that name and specify it in my defaults so that Windows Terminal knows that it needs to apply that color scheme. Now, again, I have hot reloading here. So if I go back, now that looks really nice. So here I have my retro vibes in my Windows Terminal.
I don't think you were born yet, Jarne, but
no.
When I was just a child, my father had an IBM PC with a Hercules monitor, and it could only display this greenish color, right? So yeah, really retro vibes here.
I also remember the amber color being the default color for the UI.
The orange.
That's also, yeah.
Yeah, the text was maybe also a little bit more fat than it is right now, right?
Definitely not as sharp as this.
No, definitely not as sharp. So let's maybe actually change the font also, because this is the default font that comes with Windows Terminal, but you're also able to change and choose your own font. Now, there's actually a really good source that I found for choosing your own font. It's called Nerd Fonts. It's just a GitHub repository. And it's really easy to choose your own font here. You can just go to the releases. The latest release is just fine. And then when you scroll down, you have a whole lot of assets and a whole lot of different fonts you can choose from. Now, if you don't know how a specific font will look like, you can just Google the name of the font and you will find it out. I already downloaded the specific fonts. It will just download in a directory. And normally you will have some variants of the font that will be downloaded. It's very easy. You can just select them all, press install, and the fonts will be installed on your Windows machine, because they are true type font files, meaning that they are kind of like open formats. So they're not specific to Windows Terminal. They can also be applied to other places where you might choose to have a different font. Now, this is one of the rare instances where I would like to go to the graphical user interface, because writing out the full font in the configuration file, it's prone to some spelling mistakes. So let's do it via the graphical user interface instead. So here, I would also just go to defaults, following the same flow. I can go to appearance. And here I will already see my custom color scheme being homebrew. And I can select my custom font that I've already downloaded, being, I think I need to press show all fonts in order for this to work. There we go. Isn't that nice? So let's choose this font real quick.
Nice is the correct term here, Jarne.
Well, let's actually see how it looks like. We can always change it if it's unreadable. But as you can see, my font has been updated. Well, after all, this is maybe not very readable, so let's change it to another font. I quickly just wanted to show you that it's pretty easy to actually change your fonts. I think this one is more appropriate, right? So let's choose this one instead. There we go. Very nice. So we're not done yet. So the next thing I would actually like to do is customize my prompt. So my prompt is still pretty boring, right? And as you can guess, there are also third-party packages that can help me with that. So one of those third-party packages that are out there are OhMyPosh. OhMyPosh is a third-party package that can really customize your prompt. The documentation on the website is pretty good. I'm not going to go through the documentation right now, but I would just like to show you some commands that you would need to enter inside of the Windows terminal in order to get OhMyPosh working locally. It's actually not a lot. I'm actually going to go to commands that I've written out right here, because I'm not going to type them out. I'm going to choose the lazy approach. So the first command you would need to enter here is winget to install the third-party package, OhMyPosh. Now, in this case, for me, it's not going to install the package because I already installed it. It's just going to look for updates. But it's pretty easy to install. All right, it's done. Now, to actually initialize the default theme of OhMyPosh, it's also pretty easy. You can just type OhMyPosh init, and then you can specify whatever JSON you want. Well, this is the default one, so let's actually execute this one and see how it looks like. And there we go. We have our custom OhMyPosh running inside of the Windows terminal. Actually don't like this one, so let's change it. One way to have an overview of all of the themes that are out there is by using the getPosh theme command. And that way you will see all of the themes that are out there, and you can choose one from your own liking. Now, I already made my choice, so let's let this play out for a second. Not gonna take too long anymore. There we go. Let's actually change the theme here. So let's choose Hull 10 instead. And there we go. We have a different theme. So right now, this custom prompt is not stored yet. So when I open a new session here, it's still going to use my old prompt. So in order to have that stored, I'm going to need to edit some stuff in the default profile of PowerShell. Because maybe I failed to mention this at the beginning, but OhMyPosh is really specific to PowerShell. Besides the color scheme and the nerd font that we did earlier, that's available for all of the different profiles out there. This is really only for PowerShell. Now, to actually apply the storing of the OhMyPosh, I can just open the default profile of PowerShell by doing it like this, by having the global variable profile and opening it in Visual Studio Code in this case. So I just need to put that in here and specify Hull 10, of course. So let's save this. And now, when I open a new tab, it will load in my OhMyPosh styling. So pretty nice. So one final thing I maybe want to do here is to do something about my icons, because I don't have any at the moment. Isn't that boring? So when I type the list command, I see an overview of all of my folders that are inside of my user folder, but they don't have any icons at the moment. Luckily, Scott Hanselman agrees with me. He has a blog post about customizing the Windows PowerShell experience, also with OhMyPosh. But when I scroll all the way at the bottom here, he's also going to talk about terminal icons that I can download. Now, this is also something specific to the PowerShell ecosystem, but this is available in the PowerShell gallery, so I can just download this module. Now, this is a command that also requires elevated permissions. So normally you would think, Jarne, you can just use sudo for this, right? Now, as per now, the sudo command doesn't work with these types of commands yet. So it doesn't work with commandlets yet, is what I was trying to say. So in this case, we would still need to open a new window and execute the command over there. So let's do that. I'm going to close this, and let's do it in here. So this is going to install our module. And while it's doing so, let's go back and let's copy the second command here, which is going to import the terminal icons into my PowerShell session. So now I can import the terminal icons. And let's type the list command again. And there we go. I have my terminal icons right here. You may have guessed it, but when I open a new terminal session, this is also not going to be persisted at the moment. So let's also put this inside of my PowerShell profile. Let's go back. And now when I open a new window, all of my settings are immediately available. Fantastic. All right. So these are all useful customizations, but you also have some more exotic configurations that you can do. One of the things that I found was in the themes section right here. When I'm going to define a custom theme for my window view, in this case, we have an experimental rainbow frame. So I can put this to true and give a name to this theme. Let's say custom. Let's specify the theme here, being custom. And when I open the Windows terminal again, you may not see it very well, but I have a rainbow frame enabled for my Windows terminal. So really features all the way from very useful to, let's say, very exotic.
Really so goes together with the LEDs on your keyboard, right?
Exactly. So maybe for some people, but not for me. So I'm going to disable it again for now. All right. A final thing that I would maybe like to show you is to set a specific tab title. So if I go back to the terminal, you see right now my tab title is kind of like decided by OhMyPosh. So it's going to also have an influence on my tab title. I don't want that in this case. I want to define my own tab title for PowerShell in this case. So let's actually go to the PowerShell profile. And I can specify a tab title here. So let's say my PowerShell, for example. And when I go back, because this is profile related, it's not going to really work with hot reloading. I would need to start a new PowerShell session for this to work. But as you can see, it doesn't work yet. And that is because it's still going to try and override my tab title. So in order to prevent that from happening, I'm also going to need to use suppress application title. And that way, it's really going to use my own specified title. So when I go back right now and open a new PowerShell session, you can see my PowerShell. Fantastic. All right. Now let's maybe go back to something you were mentioning, Sander. So you were mentioning in the beginning if it's easy to add new custom shells and bashes to the Windows terminal.
Yeah.
So I actually downloaded Git. And when you download Git, you will also get Git Bash. So let's actually try and add Git Bash here to the Windows terminal experience. So I'm not going to type it out at this moment, but that is because I also have a whole lot of custom configuration that comes with it. So let's rather explain it a little bit instead of typing it out. So let's paste it right here in the profiles list. And actually, the only thing you need to do is just link to the command line, in this case being bash.exe. The other things are all optional. So I can also specify an icon, a starting directory, a tab title, that kind of stuff. And let's also maybe, just to showcase it a little bit, let's put the command prompt on hidden, because actually don't use the command prompt. So let's go back. And as you can see, I also have Git Bash here. And when I open it, I will have my custom color scheme. I will have shell integration, as you can see by the markings inside of the scroll bar. So I didn't have to do anything custom for Git Bash, and it just works integrated with the Windows terminal experience. Really awesome. Now, one final thing I would maybe like to show you, let's actually close the Windows settings here, is the command palette. So a setting that you may already be familiar with inside of Visual Studio Code, for example, is to summon the command palette. So here you can, for example, enter Ctrl-Shift-P, and it will bring up the command palette. And you can do useful things like, for example, format your document. That same functionality you also have here inside of the Windows terminal. So you can also type Ctrl-Shift-P, and it will bring up a command palette with a whole lot of useful commands that you can execute. Now, this command palette is also in itself pretty configurable, actually. So one of the commands that I entered at the beginning of this session is the clear command, and it also shows up here. Now, if you don't like the way it's written out here, we can actually go back to my specified action, and we can actually give a name to it. So, for example, clear inputs. Let's save it. And this really boggles my mind. So I didn't even have to close the command palette in order for the hot reloading to work. So it actually just changed it inline for me. That is just crazy that it does that. But yeah, it just works. And there were a whole lot more configuration options that you could do with the command palette. You can have nested commands. You can have all kinds of different things. So that was actually really quickly what I wanted to show you guys. So you have a lot of functionality that comes with Windows Terminal, a lot of customization options. And what I personally really like about the Windows Terminal is that it has an experience for everyone. Not everybody likes everything, but you can just be very flexible and configure it any way you want.
Yeah, that was a great overview, Jarne. Yeah, I've been using Windows Terminal for a long time now, since it first was released, and yeah, I never use another one, so it's really great. And also the new features that you showed, I'm definitely going to use them. I've also been a very avid user of OhMyPosh. I think it's really cool. I actually have it set up to show me what is the .NET SDK that is configured within a folder and all that stuff.
Oh,
it's
pretty
really
nice.
powerful. It gives you all the information about your Git status. It's really awesome. As a developer working from the terminal a lot, I think that's really great. So yeah. So, and I'm actually using a Mac nowadays as my daily driver, and it also works there. So I've installed PowerShell, and I've had OhMyPosh and all that stuff. So really cool. You don't have Windows Terminal, obviously, but OhMyPosh is also my go-to.
So you installed OhMyPosh in
PowerShell in Mac.
In your Mac terminal.
Yeah, you can just install it through
Yeah.
Homebrew. It's really cool. So actually it works there. So yeah. So I also have it then in my, because I make a lot of use of the integrated terminal in VS Code. And there it also works. So that's actually what I use mostly. So yeah. So thanks for giving us this overview of all the new features. I think there's lots more. So if people want to use Terminal, you can customize it. You can make your windows transparent, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do. Also, what I really like is the hotkeys for splitting it. You can actually split your windows into multiple terminals for demos and all that stuff. It's really powerful stuff. So if you're a developer or somebody that does a lot of terminal stuff, then it's really a go-to tool for you on Windows. So thanks for showing us that, everybody at home watching. Thanks for watching. If you like us, please subscribe to the channel, and then we'll see you at the next episode. See you later.